haven't started station ID yet. It's all
Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening, depending on when you're watching or listening to this broadcast. Hi, I'm Leon Rock, and this is All Things Black Politics here live on Boston Black News. Well, guess what? We talk politics, and more politics, and we got a lot of politics to talk about. Well, let's talk about the politics of, the politics of getting charged with being in Russia and doing not appropriate things. Well, Brittany Grenier's plane has landed in the U.S. this morning at I guess I don't even know what airport, but it landed in the airport this morning, and the country that has essentially brought her back, the Biden administration, is vowing to secure the release of someone who has been detained in Russia much longer, Paul Whelan, a former U.S. Marine, has been held in Russia since 2018. And his family is disappointed that he was left behind in the Grenier swap. Yeah, actually, I'll tell you, I'm wondering what you think about this whole swap, this whole comeback to the United States. Yeah, I'm confused about it myself. Grenier landed at Kelly Airfield in San Antonio. Now I got it down at 4:29 a.m. local time. She was brought to Brooke Army Medical Center, where she underwent an evaluation to reunite with her wife, Sherelle Grenier. The 32-year-old Houston native was imprisoned in the Russian penal colony earlier this year after authorities were found, they found cannabis oil in her luggage, sentencing her to 9 hard years. Yeah. The Biden administration negotiated her release in exchange for Russian arms dealer Victor Bout. Hey, check this out. Now, this guy that she got essentially swapped for was a huge arms dealer. He has been doing things to try to kill Americans. That's his whole purpose. And they swapped her out for him. Grenier's secure return achieved a top goal for the president of the United States, Biden, who has received criticism for failing to win the freedom for another American, former Marine Paul Whelan, who we mentioned earlier, who has been jailed in Russia for nearly 4 years. Hold on. See, here's the problem. Here's the problem right here. As far as I'm concerned, is that 4 years this Marine has been held by the Russians, and the young lady who is a basketball player, right, is held because she was doing some goofy things with, I guess, drugs over there in Russia, not smart. And she wasn't dealing them. She actually just had them in her bag, not smart. But we got a Marine over there, and we're not trying to get the Marine out as far as I'm concerned. Well, it looks kind of shaky to me. In a Thursday press conference, Biden said he spoke on the phone with Grenier, is that Griner, and that she was safe and relieved that her wife has been brought back or being brought back to the States. And they said that she was going to receive specialized medical treatment, which is good. Well, I'll tell you, I personally, I'm not feeling it. But hey, it's already done. It's done. But I think that they should have tried to get the Marine out first. He's been there the longest, so get him out first, and try to get the young lady out the next swap. But that was my opinion. I could be right. But I'm sure you have an opinion too. You can call in and we'll talk about it. And you know the number. Anyway, wow. That right there is shocking, actually, what happened with Grenier. Actually, when I say shocking, I'm not against it, but I'm not like so hung up on the fact that, well, a person that that had drugs in their bag and want to get out because you should know better. Don't you think? When you go into another country, don't bring no drugs into another country, particularly Russia. If I'm, that was goofy as far as I'm concerned. Just plumb goofy, goofy. Well, here's another goofy one. Herschel Walker. Yeah, Herschel Walker, he lost. Everybody knows he lost. He's a loser. He lost the election in Georgia. And guess what? Oh, here's an interesting thing. During the introduction of Herschel Walker, during the concession speech, guess who showed up in Atlanta? Oh, this one, I didn't even know this was going on. A familiar face was introduced, introduced Herschel Walker before the Senate race concession speech on Tuesday. Doug Flutie. Doug Flutie, the Heisman winner who threw the famous Hail Mary for Boston College and grew up in Nantucket, Nantucket, or I think Nantucket, called his fellow Heisman winner his brother for life. He said, "It's my privilege to have the opportunity to introduce Herschel to you, a guy that's been my buddy, a friend, a pal, a brother for life for the past 40 years. Flutie said he cares about the state and he cares about the country. One heck of a man. Well, hold on. This guy, he's running right now. Herschel Walker is running back to Texas. He's done. Herschel Walker is done, and I'm so glad, actually. I shouldn't be saying it like that, but the reality is that Herschel Walker is some kind of nut job. Yeah, I'm telling you my opinions today, and I could be right. I could be right. Now, hold on and wait a minute. There's more. This is kind of, I don't get it on one point here. On the issue of, I got to go into the international sphere right now. What is going on with American policy regarding Haiti? What is going on with American policy in regards to Haiti? You see, the Biden administration on Monday extended and expanded legal protections for undocumented Haitians living in the United States. It was the first thing he did in, to actually empower those folks that coming from Haiti or in Haiti to essentially survive. The Biden administration looked towards unraveling and a desperate situation in Haiti this week and recognized the suffering of the beleaguered people. Yes, acknowledging that extraordinary conditions exist in the Caribbean nation so close to Florida's shores. The Biden administration on Monday extended and expanded legal protections for undocumented Haitians living in the United States. It was the right thing to do, even given the disturbing surge in political upheaval and economic troubles in Haiti. Hold on and wait a minute. Temporary protection status, or TPS, is heightening news for 100,000 Haitians. Some of them have arrived in the last few months as Haiti undergoes the largest migration crisis by sea in nearly 20 years. Life in Haiti is difficult, and it has been and has only worsened since the last assassination of, and I got to get this president's name right. I don't even know how to say this president's name, but I think it's Jovenel Moïse. His murder is still unsolved 17 months later. The brazen murder of Moïse, ambushed and killed in his bedroom, aggravated an already terrible situation in Haiti, sending it into deep crisis. Well, I'm confused about American public policy regarding Haiti, but I'll tell you what, the Biden administration made a good decision, an excellent decision, and a righteous decision when they unraveled this desperate situation in Haiti this week and recognized their suffering. And so, you know, the Biden administration actually providing these extended legal protections was right on point. But I'll tell you what, we have to have a stronger position on Haiti moving forward. This is Leon Rock, and this is All Things Black Politics Live here from Washington, D.C. And, you know, I'll tell you, I've looked now at what is going on in the country in relationship to Donald Trump. This nut job, this guy right here. I mean, what can we say about what is going on with Donald Trump? Well, the senator, there's one person that has essentially left Donald Trump just recently. Arizona Senator Christian, and I got to get this name right. I'm not good at names. Sinamia, I think is unapologetic about being a moderate who has alienated progressives with her stance on a filibuster and other issues, is leaving the Democratic Party to register as an independent. Yeah, she told the newspaper Political this morning that she will not caucus with the Republicans. So she's not turning total Republican, I guess. There's other news. In Boston, my hometown, your hometown, the mayor and the governor are finally coming together and really prepared to do some interesting work for the city. Yeah, that's what they say right now. And the mayor essentially is saying that she wants to increase affordable housing in the city of Boston, and the Boston City Council is exactly saying the same thing. You see, the City Council has passed a resolution today calling on the administration of Mayor Michelle Wu to increase the percentage of affordable housing required in new housing developments from the current 13% to 20%, and lower the threshold at which the policy takes effect from 9 units to 5 units. I got a comment about this, and it's about time that the City Council is addressing this with the mayor. I have wondered for many a year why the city of Boston has such a low threshold on affordable housing units for new housing communities. You see, because the current 13% really doesn't do anything for people that are in need of low income housing. And this has been a problem for years in the city of Boston. You come to DC and Maryland and Virginia, and they already have some 20–25% thresholds for new affordable housing units. But check this out. The resolution also directs the Wu administration to shift the city away from using HUD-designated areas of median income or designations of median income, which for an individual stands at $98,150. And instead of the base affordability on the average income of the neighborhood in which a housing development is built. $98,150 for median income for one individual? Wow. What's going on in Boston? District 5 Councilor Kendra Lara, who has co-sponsored the resolution with at-large Councilor Ruth C., said that the city is overdue for a revision of its policy, which was lost. Yeah, really lost. Last updated in 2015. It was due to be updated in 2018, she said. We are now 4 years overdue for an update, and every month that goes by, our luxury developments are being approved. We're losing a chance to get a long-term affordable units we need to stabilize the neighborhoods. I agree with that. That's for sure. Oh, there's no question. There's no question that affordable housing units are getting lost because the city administration is not doing what it needs to do. And by the way, this is not just the Wu administration. This is administrations for years that have dropped the ball on affordable housing. I'm glad that the Wu administration is conducting a study to investigate the feasibility of increasing the percentage of affordable units required under the city's inclusionary development policy. Well, we'll see how that works. Wu pledged to increase the IDP to 20% while campaigning for mayor last year. See, here's the deal. Wu actually gave a statement recently indicating that she is willing to take immediate action. She wrote that she was grateful that the city council for its partnership in advancing housing affordability as a foundation for our growth as a family-friendly city. In a statement, she also stated that the earlier this year, the administration launched a formal study on the impacts of housing production and project feasibility to consider potential changes to the inclusionary development linkage program. We look forward to sharing these findings once the study is complete and taking action in the near future. Well, taking action in the near future. How long does it take for action to be taken in regards to the housing crisis in the city of Boston? It's clear that there's a housing crisis, and it's clear that there's a need for additional units of affordable housing, and it should be done expeditiously. 20% IDP, increase it by 20%, but let me ask you this. Will that amount of units be what is necessary? I don't think so. I think more affordable housing units are critical. And they need to increase it maybe by 25% instead of 20% to get more affordable housing units online. Because they definitely construct those non-affordable housing units big time in the city. But that's just my observation. I could be wrong. That's just my observation, and I could be wrong. City Councilor Liz Breeden, who represents the Alston-Brighton community neighborhoods, said that her neighborhood is also seeing increased development with 7,000 units due to come online there in the upcoming months and years, but just 14% of the units are deeded affordable. Did you hear me? Alston-Brighton, 14% of the units are deeded affordable. This is insufficient to meet the needs of Alston-Brighton, she says. So across the city councilors are saying that there's not enough affordable housing. It doesn't make a difference if it's Roxbury, Dorchester, Mattapan, Hyde Park, Roslindale, Alston-Brighton, and every other part of the city. Charlestown, East Boston. City Councilor Breeden also noted that 2/3 of the units proposed for her neighborhood are one-bedroom studios and single-room occupancy units. Well, then that doesn't say that there's going to be a whole bunch of families living there, right? I understand that Alston-Brighton is where folks go to school over at BU in BC. But one-bedroom studios and single-room occupancy units, they are essentially putting together a plan to exclude families, and definitely exclude Black and Latino families, because guess what? Who's going to be in those one-bedroom and studio and single-room occupancy units in Alston-Brighton being built, 7,000 units? It's not going to be Black families. It's not going to be Latino families, I can guarantee. That's for sure. District 1 Councilor Gabriela Kalita said the average East Boston resident earns just 50% of the area median income. See? That's crazy, right? Because the area median income is $98,150. So if that is right, what is that, about 45, 47? Yeah, about $47,000 for a median income of East Boston resident. City Councilor Kalita says, we know that Eastie's displacement crisis is exacerbated by the fact that the AMI requirements do not reflect the needs of our neighborhoods. Well, I can affirm that. I'm sure you can too. That this crisis of housing is impacting our community in major ways. Next week, I plan to have a special guest on the program, and that special guest is going to talk about diabetes, healthcare, and healthcare disparities in the city of Boston. Diabetes, healthcare, and healthcare disparities in the city of Boston. We're going to talk about the politics of health disparities. Special guest will be on. Won't name the guest right now, but the guest is a special one. And they will be talking about diabetes in the African American community of Boston, something that is a very important topic to me. As a diabetic myself, I am very much concerned about the challenges of diabetes and the politics of health and health reform, healthcare and healthcare reform. We haven't delved into that issue on the program. And so that's what we're going to do next week. We're going to talk about the politics of healthcare, the politics of diabetes, and all the other things that come with diabetes, and I guess the resources or the lack of resources for Black Americans regarding their diabetes medicines that they have to take. Insulin is not as affordable, even though the president of the United States signed a law that requires that pharmaceutical companies not charge over a certain amount for insulin supplies. But the fact of the matter is, even that minimalist amount that the federal government has said that the pharmaceutical companies can pay for diabetes medicine, fact of the matter is that that minimum is unaffordable to many who are at or below the poverty level in the United States. At or below the poverty level in Massachusetts. at or below the poverty level in Boston. That challenge is a challenge that we're going to talk about later in the broadcast next week. I've been wondering, just a few weeks ago, in Massachusetts, the voters have voted for a new attorney general and a new governor. And the governor, who on the campaign trail, you know who I'm talking about, Maura Healey, ran as a centrist. And there's a lot of talking as of late in the political class about how she has offered little insight into how she will govern differently than the outgoing governor, Charlie Baker. Now, there are some who are covering Maura Healey and her plans for the future. And actually, the Bay State Banner has been covering her as well. And actually, they are saying in the Bay State Banner that the administration is essentially assembling a new administration. Activists in the Black and Latino community can think of one area where they'd like to see change is diversity at the top of, yes, the governor's office. In Baker's cabinet, the Secretary of Labor and Workforce Development, Rosalind Acosta, who is Cuban American, stands out as the only Latina. There are no Black and Asian people in the cabinet. Among Baker's senior advisors, legal counsel, and other kitchen cabinet positions, former Chief of Staff Tony Richards, until last year, stood out as the sole person of color. There's more. Healey's transition team, whose leadership includes 8 people of color and 7 whites, signals a promise of more diverse administration. Among those leading the teams are Mass League of Community Health Centers President, CEO Michael Curry, Latinos for Education Executive Director Amanda Fernandez, and Bunker Hill Community College President Pam Ettinger. Yeah. But it remains an open question to whether diversity on the transition team will translate into a diverse administration. As this administration forms, one of the most important metrics will be the number of Black people she has in the cabinet, said former city councilor Tito Jackson, who has served under the Deval Patrick administration in the Executive Office of Housing and Economic Development. Jackson said a diverse cabinet would better equip the Healey administration to tackle the issues of inequality in the state. Yeah, you can fix things that you don't face. Well, wait a minute. Let me say that again. You can't fix things that you don't face, he said. It's critical that anyone leading the state of Massachusetts has a cabinet that is reflective of the state. In Patrick's cabinet, people of color occupied key positions, including health and human services and public safety. Major agencies headed by people of color included the MBTA and the Division of Capital Asset and Management and Maintenance. That's under the Deval Patrick administration. The Patrick's administration staff included Mo Cohen, a chief of staff, and Lily Mendez Morgan as deputy chief of staff, and David Morales as a senior advisor. So pretty interesting. Yeah, there's always been in administrations in the Commonwealth of Massachusetts, from the time that I have been watching the Commonwealth and its governors, there's always been Black folks at higher levels until, yeah, well, it's always been Black folks at high levels of, positions of authority in the governor's office. Let's hope that that does not change. Let's hope that that does not change, my good friends. Having people of color serving as secretaries and heading up major departments often means human resource departments pulling from a wider pool of job applicants, notes the state representative Carlos Gonzalez, a Democrat from Springfield. People usually select people they have relationships with, people they go to and from school and church with, people who have the same upbringing with, he said. Well, Carlos is right. Yeah, that's right. I agree with that. That, people do not select you if they don't know you. So there's a whole bunch of folks that need to start knowing some Black folks. What do you think? But, yeah, no, I'm talking about. Among constitutional officers, Baker did not appear to do well with diversity in hiring. A 2021 analysis of the state data of the Commonwealth magazine found that the executive branch workforce was 30% people of color, but with the governor's office, the workforce was 12.5% people of color. In the Haley's Attorney General's office, the workforce was 21% people of color, higher than the Baker's office in the workforce headed by the Secretary of State, what is his name? William Galvin, but lower than the auditor Suzanne Pomp and Treasurer Deborah Goldberg. A spokesman for Haley's office this week said that the percentage is now 23%. The spokesman noted that a number has nearly doubled from 2015, when the workforce was just 12% people of color. The NAACP branch president, Tanisha Sullivan, said that beyond the diversity of the cabinet and the head of major state agencies, she wants to see policies that meet the needs of the state's diverse communities. Yeah, most of us want to see leadership in our government that is reflective of our communities, says Tanisha Sullivan. She also said that diverse representation is not enough. What we need to see is policies and initiatives championed by our elected officials that ensure all residents of Massachusetts are able to benefit the growth and prosperity of our Commonwealth. Woo, that was a mouthful, right? Yeah, that's some good stuff. Yeah, let's see how that works out for us. Well, Baker's cabinet and inner circle were mostly white. Sullivan and Gonzalez noted that his administration made some progress in tackling inequalities in state contracting. The share of state contracts going to minority-owned businesses rose from 2% in 2020 to 3% in 2021. I got to cover this. Hold on and wait a minute. Listen, the share of state contracts going to minorities owned businesses rose from 2% in 2020 to 3% in 2021. Did you hear this? I'm going to ask again. Did you hear this? Bear with me. The share of state contracts going to minority-owned businesses rose from 2% in 2020 to 3% in 2021. % of state government contracts go to minority-owned businesses. And it rose to 3% from 2%. Wow. Hold on. So 98% of all contracting in the state of Massachusetts, documented by the state of Massachusetts, goes to white contractors. Now, okay, excuse me, 97% of all state contracts go to white contractors. Do you hear what we're saying here? The Baker administration conducted a disparity study and ordered all state agencies to devise procurement plans aimed at increasing purchasing of minority vendors and appoint a supply diversity officers to oversee execution of the plans. Gonzalez, who, along with other members of the legislative Black and Latino caucus, pressured Baker to expand minority contracting and gave the Baker administration credit for this and his efforts. They reviewed the data and made changes, he said. They did a fairly good job with that. The Baker administration was very open to dialogue with the Black and Latino caucus. Gonzalez said that he and his colleagues on the caucus hope to continue their advocacy and working with the Haley administration on pushing and increasing home ownership, along with other issues with the Black and Latino communities and more business ownership and contracting opportunities. Let me be clear on this, my good friends. 98% or 97 now percent of contracting going to the majority community in Massachusetts, and only 3% going to the minority community of Massachusetts. We wonder why there is this big, huge, gigantic gap in wealth in Massachusetts. This gap of wealth, black and white, sad. Sad. I'm going to repeat something. I am going to repeat something. It's sad, my good friends. Why in the world is this happening? I'm going to repeat something again, because I think that we have to put our arms around this right here. I know Priscilla, Pastor Priscilla, and others have been attempting to address this issue, and that is the issue of minority contracting at the city and state level. But I repeat this sentence. The share of state contracts going to minority-owned businesses rose from 2% to 3% in 2021. And we have the Legislative Black and Latino Caucus pressuring to expand minority contracting. And essentially, that's what you got. A 1% increase. It's not hard to get a 1% increase, is it? When you're only at 2%. So what was it 10 years ago? What was the number 20 years ago? And then there are folks that question, how dare you talk about reparations? This money, taxpayer money, has been changing and exchanging hands for years. Back and forth, contract to contract, deal to deal. That's a fact. And it's just not Massachusetts, it's every state of the union. Oh, you know it's happening in Rhode Island. You know it's happening in New Hampshire. You know it's happening in New York, Connecticut. And we wonder why there's this big gap, huge gap in wealth, in income, because of that comment, that fact. that I shared with you just a couple of seconds ago. And that is that wealth gap, that contracting gap. That gap is what we need to address. That gap. That gap is the most instructive gap that I've heard in years. And what do I mean by instructive gap? The fact that the share of state contracts going to minority-owned businesses rose from 2% in 2020 to 3% in 2021 is instructive. It tells us that there is so much work to do to address issues of inequality in my home state of Massachusetts, my home city of Boston. We have to do better. We have to do better, my good friends. Well, we've talked about a lot today. The prisoner swap, the challenges of housing opportunities, in the closeout conversation about the whole issue of how the Commonwealth and the city is doing such a challenging job, let's put it that way, in relationship to contracting opportunities for Black folks or minority folks. We're going to talk about this and other issues, but next week, we're going to talk about the challenge of diabetes and the challenge of health care in Boston's Black community. This is Leon Rock. I am so glad that you joined into the conversation next week as we have this special guest talking about diabetes. Actually, we're going to actually talk about diabetes in a different way. And I'm sure you'll want to tune into this conversation because pretty much in every African-American community, I can attest to the fact that there's probably going to be one person that has diabetes at minimum. So you need to hear this broadcast. See you next week. Peace.